You're listening to the Substation Gaming Podcast. I'm Black Chestnut. With me, I have Ricola.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom because they showed off 10 minutes of gameplay. A whole 10 minutes. Amazing.
Ooh.
I know, right?
I mean, that's what they've been needing to do. I mean, we've been needing gameplay of this pretty bad. Like, they've just been kind of showing us stuff until now.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing with this gameplay is that it didn't really show off anything new. It just was explaining what they had already shown off.
Which is nice to know.
Yeah, which is fine, because it needed to be explained, because they haven't done any of that yet.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, we get to see everything we've seen. The floating islands, and, like, the 3 mechanics that we know about.
Yeah, so it really just looks like Breath of the Wild, but with new, I'm assuming new, shrines. Because they're not going to literally reuse the shrines, because that would be dumb.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't even know how, like...
With new Sheikah Slate abilities, because I'm assuming all the old ones are gone, probably.
No, we've seen, I thought we saw time stop once, at least.
No, that's different. That was the reverse one.
Oh, okay.
They did not show time stop off in any of the previous trailers. That was reverse, where they make time go in reverse instead of stopping.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the new gimmick of this game is that you can fuse items together. It seems to confuse basically anything with anything.
It's the weld tool from Gmod. It's finally here.
Yeah, it's Gmod. They were like, let's put Gmod into Breath of the Wild, and then they did it.
Honestly, not enough games use physics in cool ways, so this is actually pretty cool.
I mean, okay, I'll be honest. The mechanic is very cool. It does explain what they've been spending 6 years on, because having an already like list of 1,000 items, and then being like, we need to be able to combine all of these items with each other, and then have them all do unique things. Yeah, that's gonna take a long time to make.
Yeah, it's combining items like sticks and rocks make new weapons, or you could combine all the physics props and this stuff. It's freaking wild, like, just the amount of depth that's probably in there.
Yeah. On top of the fact that you can then also fuse random pieces of junk you find on the ground to make boats.
Yeah.
And cars and flying machines.
Yeah, you can play Gmod.
Yeah.
My one worry is, like, you know, when you start Breath of the Wild, there's all these, like, super cool, like, complicated not complicated is not the right word, but there's a ton of depth in the mechanics, and there's, like, you can be super creative.
Mm-hmm.
But once you play for a while, you don't really need to do that. You can kind of just stockpile a few okay weapons, bring some food, and you're pretty much a god.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. Because it doesn't seem like they changed any of the fundamental mechanics that caused those issues in Breath of the Wild, right? Because a lot of people like to complain about the weapon durability in Breath of the Wild, but the reality is the actual much bigger problem was the poorly designed armor and health and healing system.
I really don't mind durability. I think it's annoying late game when you do just have nice weapons and then they break and it just kind of feels bad.
Yeah.
I like it a lot early game when your weapons are like, oh no, my weapon broke. I gotta go scavenge some random thing and keep fighting.
Yeah.
Like, that's really fun. But...
Yeah, the biggest problem with like Breath of the Wild and whatnot was the fact that the game got progressively easier as you played to an insanely drastic degree, where what happened is everything becomes piss easy. You're basically invincible. You have an infinite stockpile of instant heal items that you can pause the game and eat at any time. There's a million of them. They all give you crazy stat buffs. You have armor that blocks 90% of your damage. You have a shit ton of health. You have a ton of weapons. Way too many. You know, way more than you can hold, which is why the durability system becomes flawed, because now you're literally just throwing out your weapons and you don't want to use them because the enemies will drop worse weapons than the ones you already have.
Yeah.
But on top of that, it just makes combat like not engaging at all, because now what happens is your late game, all the enemies have not gotten any more complicated. Their AI is the exact same. They still fight you the exact same, except now they have 1 billion health. So now they're just giant meat sponges, you know,
Yeah.
and you're invincible.
But
So
you also at the same time
it's
you
like
do
it takes
enough
all the
damage.
fun combat that you had to do early game because you only had 3 hit points and the enemies were still engaging because you haven't learned all of their moveset yet. So when you get to late game, you're just like, well, I'm invincible. This enemy has 1 billion health, and I know all the 5 things they're gonna do.
Yeah, and I can just hit them with my big sword, and I'm good.
Which makes any combat encounter late game that isn't a Lionel or a Guardian completely pointless to engage in.
Yeah, you just don't get anything.
Yeah.
Which it's just like a shame because there's so much cool shit. Like, but there's no like encouragement to engage with like get super creative with stuff like all of the Sheikah Slate abilities.
Yeah. I mean, this was like a big reason why Breath of the Wild got nothing but 10 out of 10s across the board, because those reviewers were only reviewing the first 30 hours of Breath of the Wild. The first 30 hours of Breath of the Wild is amazing. It's once you get past those 30 hours, the game starts to crack. And, you know, and the further you play, the worse it gets. You know? It's like, I 100% of Breath of the Wild. The only thing I didn't do is get all the Korok seeds, you know?
You have to be a psycho to get all the Korok seeds, to be fair.
Yeah. And it's like, I got all the shrines, I got all the memories, I did everything, you know? And by the end of the game, I was just like, I mean, it was still fun, of course. It wasn't bad, but, you know, it had these very obvious flaws. And so, when I'm looking at with Tears of the Kingdom, it's like, okay, there's this one new mechanic that is genuinely very cool, and there's these new floating islands, and then everything else is the same. And it's like, well, I already explored the world, which was the funnest part of Breath of the Wild. That was the one part of Breath of the Wild that never stopped getting fun, was exploring the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool shit.
You know,
but you've already seen all that, most of that.
But I've already seen the world, so now it's just seeing the changes that they put in the world, I guess.
Yeah, I'm curious how big the changes are and how big these islands are. I mean, these islands look pretty large. Like when you like just exploring like 1 or 2 of them, like in here, and they look pretty like a lot of shit to do at least.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But it's like, but I also I'm like, I have to compare this to Elden Ring, you know, and Elden Ring was perfect throughout the entire game and had literally no downsides at all. That game was flawless from start to finish with not a single issue. I know a lot of people will claim to have problems with Elden Ring. Those people are wrong and they're stupid.
I've heard a lot of people complain about some of the late game bosses, but that's I don't know.
The late game bosses are fine. If you thought they were hard, you're a shitter who does not utilize the mechanics the game offers you, or you're just bad. One or the other.
Yeah, Souls games always have shitty bosses.
Elden Ring is like piss easy. I don't know how you can find that game hard. I'm sorry. It's like if you can beat Ocarina of Time, you can beat Elden Ring.
Come on, Ocarina of Time's easier than Elden Ring.
Okay, it's easier than Elden Ring, but Elden Ring literally lets you summon a dude who does the fight for you. Like, come on. It's like you shouldn't be comparing these games with, well, you're actively gimping yourself by not engaging in specific mechanics because you think it makes the game too easy. It's like, like a game is as easy as it is with all of the mechanics you have at play, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you can't say Ultra Kill is hard when you can just literally play it on easy mode with cheats on, you know? Like, yeah. It's like, oh yeah, it is hard if you play it on this difficulty. I was like, okay. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's like, the flaws that people point out in Elden Ring are, like, objectively wrong, because it's like, this late game boss is bad. I'm like, well, I didn't have a problem with it, so obviously that's a you problem. Like, I do not understand people's problems with, like, the Fire Giant or Godskin duos. Neither of those bosses were bad. Like,
I still
clearly, you just weren't using a bow. Okay, I don't want to hear it. If you were doing a mixed quality build or a dex build, you could have used a bow. You could have used a bow. Hey, the Fire Giant dies really easily to a bow.
I've trained everyone for like a decade to not use a bow, okay?
Bows are really OP in Dark Souls if you actually bothered to use them. The
They're
problem is
so
people don't use them, so the one time they decide to pull them out to cheese an enemy, they're like, why am I only doing 10 damage? And the answer is because you didn't upgrade the bow ever, and you're
to
using the
be fair,
shittiest arrows.
they're extremely unfun in Dark Souls 1.
They're actually really fun in Dark Souls 1 if you actually bothered to use them.
I'd rather just use magic 90% of the time.
Look, man, I did a bow build in Dark Souls 1, and I was amazed by how overpowered it was. And you want to know why? It's because the only stat you need to level up in order to make that bow OP is Dex. You can just turbo level Dex. You have an S scaling bow. It does 1 billion damage. No enemy's ever going to get near you, so you don't need health. You don't need stamina because you kill everything from a mile away, and every time you can't run out of stamina while using a bow. It's literally impossible. You don't need strength because the bow doesn't scale with strength. You don't need your magic stats because you're not going to use magic because the bow is better than any spell you can cast anyway.
Yeah.
And you have infinite ammo on the bow because you can hold up to 999 of every arrow.
What we're saying is Souls games are very silly.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just thinking something. We were talking about how like late game there's a lot of enemy variety in Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Here there could be more with they showed that they could use fused weapons. I wonder if that will add.
I'm sure they're adding new enemies. They've already shown off a few.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like even like familiar enemies late game, I don't know, they can pull out some wacky fused weapon and like catch you off guard.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. That could alleviate some of that, I wonder.
Yeah. I don't know. I it's just really quick on the Elden Ring thing. I've still yet to see any critique of Elden Ring that has been valid in any way whatsoever. Because I always just think back to like the Joseph Anderson Elden Ring critique, and I'm just like, he complains that not every item is usable on every build, which is a really stupid thing to complain about in an RPG because that's just how the game is designed.
That's how every RPG is designed.
It's just how every RPG is.
Equip stuff.
He complains that the game gives him too many spells and that the weapon special attacks that you can equip on your weapons are just more spells, which is wrong. They are special attacks for your weapons that are usable on melee builds intentionally. It's like, but I don't want to use weapons. I just want to two-hand a big club. And it's like, well, that's a you problem. That's not the game's problem. That's on you for refusing to play a more interesting build. It's like you're obviously just not role-playing good enough.
Hey, sometimes you want to play a club build.
Look, if you're going to go Unga Bunga build, you have to go in on it. And you should Unga Bunga, but you got to be role-playing Unga Bunga. And if you're not enjoying role-playing Unga Bunga, then you should be role-playing something else. You also had a really dumb critique about the dungeons, saying that it would have been better if they were randomly generated, which is the stupidest thing anyone has ever said.
It's really funny, actually.
It's like, no.
You know how much freaking work it is to put a shit ton of non-randomly generated dungeons?
It's like, he really wanted the dungeons to just be chalice dungeons from Bloodborne.
I don't dislike the chalice dungeons, but I mean, I prefer actual.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the mini dungeons in Elden Ring were amazing. Each one was unique. Each one had unique loot in it. That was like awesome. It's like getting a unique weapon in Elden Ring feels way better than any reward I ever found in Breath of the Wild. Even if that unique weapon was a weapon I would never use on that specific playthrough. It still felt better to get that because it was a unique item I had the potential to like main as like my main weapon, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to half the time in Breath of the Wild, I would get an item that's worse than all of the weapons I currently have equipped. You know?
Yeah.
We're talking too much about Breath of Elden Ring, but you know, it's kind of impossible to not compare the two.
At this point, I think Elden Ring is the game to beat at this point now, in terms of maybe just open world games in general now.
Yeah,
I mean, unless at least this like action type of open world like Zelda is, I guess.
Yeah.
But we haven't brought up the slime ability that goes through ceilings. It works exactly how it was expected to work.
You go through a ceiling.
It feels like more of a convenience than anything. Like, it doesn't even feel like it. Like, it
Well, it's
looks
one of the main ways to get to the islands because you can do
okay.
it when you're standing under an island and then get onto the island.
Yeah, it's silly.
So, yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure it's mostly just there so you can get to the islands
Okay.
without needing
They
to build a flying machine and flying all the way up there. You know.
see for convenience, but also that would be really fun to have to build flying machine.
Well, you know,
I
you
hope
can still build a flying machine and fly up there.
I know, and I hope I can still do wacky physics stuff and launch myself up there, like
Yeah.
riding on the shield like a skateboard.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I'll have lots of fun fusing random junk onto other random junk and then seeing what happens.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean,
Like the mechanic does look really cool, but
that random eyeball you get from a random enemy drop, you can fuse with your bow, and now it's a homing weapon.
yeah,
Like, if there's just like a few dozen like items that do that kind of thing, like that's just like, yeah, I can spend like hours
that does
messing around.
fix the issue that Breath of the Wild had, where the random drops you got from monsters were just garbage, just useless items that filled up your inventory that had no purpose.
Yeah, like some of them I think you could use for cooking, and there was like some NPCs I think that bought them.
Yeah,
I don't know, I can't
your point was to throw them in potions to make special potions, but the potions were just shittier food. So there's no reason to make the potions over the food.
Yeah, the food gives you
I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, but my suggestion on how to fix the health healing system in Breath of the Wild was to just make it more like Minecraft, where you had a hunger bar that you had to constantly be eating food. Since there's infinite food throughout the world, you know, it's so easy to get. It wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, you'd burn through your inventory faster then.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's like, okay, then you eat food to get full, like fullness, and then you just have a regen. So it wouldn't be instant healing. But then if you wanted to get the instant healing, you'd have to then go make the potions, which would actually make a point to having the potions in the game, which would make the random monster drops actually have value.
Yeah. Yeah,
obviously they didn't rework the entire mechanic because that would have been too much work, and instead just added this new mechanic to make the monster parts actually do something instead.
Yeah, which
is cool. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm just looking at the trailer. Yeah, the hunger bar. It's like that'd be like a whole new game, you know.
Yeah,
like that's more of an idea for a future Zelda game, not for.
Yeah, this is trying to go for Breath of the Wild Plus, which it's not a bad thing.
It does feel weird because it's a Majora's Mask style sequel, but instead of just reusing all the assets, it's reusing the whole world and all the assets.
Yeah,
you know, because like okay, with like Majora's Mask, right? It reused the assets and it reused the mechanics, right?
Yeah,
and like the coding base and all that, but the world was brand new.
Yeah.
Right.
To be fair,
this one, it's reusing. Yeah, it's obviously much less well. They did it in a year.
Yeah.
Point is, this game is using the assets, the code base, and the world.
Yeah.
The only new thing they're adding is this new fusing mechanic.
Which I understand why that
Unless there is more stuff that they haven't shown off, and they won't show off, probably. I don't know. I haven't looked at any of the leaks. Right?
Yeah.
I know it leaked on like Reddit and shit. I haven't seen any of them. I don't know what any of the leaks are. But I don't know. It's like the new mechanic looks really cool. It looks like it's a lot of fun to play around with. I'm sure the new shrines will be fun to go through.
I'm still hoping there'll be some more like actual dungeons. That'll be nice.
I feel like if there was going to be dungeons, they would have shown them off. You know, they would have been like, here's a dungeon, you know, and they would have shown off like a minute of it, you know.
Yeah, probably.
Because it really does just feel like this is it. It's like they spent the last 6 years being able to put a mushroom on your shield.
To be fair, I assume there are probably like thousands of little interactions like that. That's probably it's.
Well, obviously, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like this one mechanic would take 6 years to implement.
Yeah.
Because that's how fundamental, that's how over encompassing it is, you know?
Yeah.
And it is a really cool mechanic. But what am I going to be doing with it? You know?
Exactly. Like, I mean, sure, I'll screw around with it, but what then? Like,
yeah, then what? The memes on Twitter were pretty funny though. All the people posting it's like Link made a megaphone using nothing but a squirrel fuse to and a megaphone.
I've seen
He
that
made a
image.
megaphone using nothing but a megaphone and a squirrel.
That is, I don't even know what show that's from, but it's quality.
Yeah, I made a tweet myself where it was the two forces of nature fused together from the TF2 comics.
I hope they add that in the next major TF2 update for real.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that. Just shoots into each other and launches in both directions somehow. You just get squished instantly. I don't know how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, the fuse mechanics is super cool.
It is, yeah. But also, man, this game's gonna be like $70. Is it worth $70?
It's like for $70 for a game that's like 80% the game I bought 6 years ago.
On a console that could barely run that game 6 years ago.
Yeah. And it's like, to be fair, like Elden Ring reused lots of assets from previous Souls games, you know?
Yeah.
But that was mostly just animation, you know? Like, it reused, like, skeletons of certain enemies and animations and AI of certain enemies from previous Souls games and, like, the character animations for your player. But there was also, like, thousands of new enemies, new animations, new weapons, new weapon types, a giant open world, the biggest open world of any video game ever, you know?
Where does it scale in the record?
Well, okay, it might not be the literal biggest, but it is at the very least the most dense.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's the biggest open world with the most shit in it. The only barren locations is like the frozen tundras, and that's because they're frozen tundras.
Yeah.
Right? It's like they're supposed to be a bit bigger, wider, and they still have tons of shit in them. And the mini dungeons that are in them are the longest mini dungeons in the game. It might have the fewest amount of mini dungeons, but they are literally the longest and most unique mini dungeons in the game. So, you know.
Yeah, I assume there was a cool ice cave.
There was a very cool ice cave. It had like dinosaurs buried in the ice. It was very cool.
Okay. Dinosaurs.
There was a cool ice mine. It was very cool.
Ooh.
There was a frozen catacombs. That was cool.
There gotta be a cat. They should just have a catacombs for every possible theme.
Yeah,
the Souls games.
There was a lot of catacombs in
I'm good. I expected that
because it was one of the main mini dungeon types. Because there's caves, mines, catacombs, and then there's also like burial grounds, which are different from catacombs. They're fancier and have big traps in them. They're kind of like mini sense fortresses that are underground.
Awesome.
And those are all like the underground mini dungeons, and then there's also above ground mini dungeons as well, like fortresses. And then there's also the main dungeons.
Elden Ring sounds very packed.
It is packed. I can't believe you haven't played it yet.
There was part of me that was like, oh man, I'll play it when I get a PS5, and now I'm like never gonna get PS5 unless that shit goes down to like $10.
You can buy a PS5 right now. What's stopping you from buying a PS5?
I don't have money.
Get a better job.
I'm working on it.
I don't know how you don't have money. What?
Oh, loan payments.
Oh, right. You went to school. You see, I didn't do that, so I'm not in debt. Unironically, it was the best decision of my life not to go to college.
Yeah.
Considering that if I did, I would have just been immediately fucked over by, you know what. So, yeah,
Yep.
it was definitely the right play to not do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking about PS5, isn't Rift Apart coming to PC?
I haven't heard anything about that.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard a thing that Rift Apart was coming to PC. Because if that does
No,
happen,
I think you're probably thinking of The Last of Us Part 1. Because that just
okay.
came to PC today. And apparently it has lots of issues. I don't know the details on them, but it just got review bombed on Steam, and Naughty Dog had to make a statement being like, we're addressing the problems. So I'm assuming it's PC problems and not people just being like, game sucks, you know.
I mean, it could just be people being like, game sucks. It is Last of
I mean,
Us.
it's valid to say it. That's like saying, Walking Dead sucks. You're just right, you know.
Which Walking Dead are we talking about here? Walking Dead
The
games.
show.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I quite
I'm
enjoyed
talking about the
season
show.
one.
I don't care about the games or the books. I'm talking about the show, which is the one that's actually overrated.
Yeah, yeah.
The other ones I don't care about because I don't know enough about to shit on them one way or another. Yeah,
But
I wish I had more to say on Zelda, but they just didn't show off that much, to be honest. It's like, here's the new fuse mechanic, and then here's how some of the new abilities work, and that's it, you know? It's like you can go through ceilings, you can rewind objects, you can stick things on top of other things. And that's all they showed, you know? It's like, and then
that's
everything
all
else is just
cool.
the exact same as Breath of the Wild. It's like,
Yeah, we don't. You can't really say much about that. It's like, okay, I understand how that works. I want to play with it, but I don't know. There's not much to say about it. At least until I see like the crazy stuff people can do with it.
yeah. Yeah, they didn't really seem to address any of the issues Breath of the Wild has, with like the late game issues.
Mm,
Outside of the fact that I guess fusing items resets their durability, maybe, or
maybe.
it adds to it if it was about to break. It seemed to be a reset the durability.
Assume midly. Yeah, because that would be goofy if you just, fuse an item and it broke instantly.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with like Breath of the Wild's weapon durability is not that the weapons break; it's that having that all the weapons break means that getting a weapon as a reward doesn't feel like a reward.
Yeah, it's just a thing. It's like,
Like if you use an item to kill an enemy, and then the item you use breaks, and then the enemy drops a new item, and
you
that
just kind of
weapon
feel.
is shittier than the one you used to kill it. You just feel bad. It's like, well, that was a fucking waste, It's like
Yeah.
if you're not constantly getting something better, then it feels like a waste. And if you find something that's rare and actually cool and maybe has like a unique effect or ability, you just never want to use it.
Oh
If you
yeah,
get
yeah.
one of the Rizro bronze, you never want to use it. If you get one of the cool katanas that the big Giga guys use, you never want to use it because it has like a cool special attack,
Exactly. Yeah, it's like
even though
it's a
it's not even that good of a
consumables
weapon.
too in
It's
every game
the
ever.
fact that it's rare. Yeah,
You just hold it in your inventory and then yeah, just never ever use it.
yeah, like the special weapons you get for completing the divine beasts. It's like, well, I'm never using this. Because it's a pain in the ass to get a new one of them. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know. I guess being able to put a big rock on a stick is really cool. So, I mean, like at the end of the day,
Can I put a big rock on a master sword? I want to do that. That'd be funny.
I'll still probably get it, and I'll
Yeah.
still probably play it for 100 hours, and I'll probably have a ton of fun. So,
I'll wait for it to go on sale for
yeah,
5%, like every Nintendo game does, because they never go any more than that.
I don't know.
Yep.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just not really sure how to feel about it.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild's always kind of been like a game that like I remember enjoying. I don't think it blew me away like it did everyone, a lot of other people. So like
Yeah,
this
I kind of agree with
sequel has
that.
always kind of just been like oh okay, yeah, that'll be good. I haven't like been like feeling like super excited about it.
Yeah, like that's the thing. There's like Breath of the Wild is an amazing game that unfortunately gets worse as you play. So
Yeah.
when you start out, it's like amazing, and then the more you play, the worse it gets, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like disappointing. And it has these issues that honestly could have been avoided at least to some degree, maybe. But at the same time, it's like the world exploration in Breath of the Wild is still amazing. The only problem is, like, a lot of the times what you find is just not the most interesting thing. It's like
Yeah.
it's like finding a shrine is cool sometimes. It depends.
Yeah, I was like every time I found a shrine, I was like, oh, a shrine. And then like occasionally you'd find something like really cool, like a great fairy or something. I was like, ooh, that's something different.
Yeah. See, I really don't know how to feel about this game. I guess I'll just have to play it and then yeah,
Yep. How long do we have again till this is out?
comes out April next month, I want
Uh,
to say.
no, it looks like it's May 12th.
May. Oh. I think it might have been April before and then got delayed. Maybe I'm thinking the Mario movie.
Yeah. Now that's something I can get excited for.
uh yeah. So I guess that's our thoughts on Zelda.
Yeah.
Feel free to leave a comment telling us your thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom. I'd be interested in hearing it because I have very I'm really not sure how to feel about it, to be honest. I have a lot of mixed feelings on it, and I kind of
Yeah.
expected them not to address any of the issues that Breath of the Wild had. Which, granted, I kind of am overplaying them. The
Yeah.
strengths of Breath of the Wild, greatly overwhelm the issues it had.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yee.
yeah, I'm still looking forward to it. Still gonna have fun with it. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks for watching,
Yep. Thanks for
and
watching.
till next time.
See ya.